Welcome to the Contrarians, where we are right and you are wrong. I'm Julio.
And I'm Alex. Here on the show, we rage against the Rotten Tomatoes machine. For the first half of each episode, Contrarians Corner, we trash the fresh red tomatoes and praise the rotten green splotches, making our case any way we can.
The aptly titled Real Talk serves as the second half of each episode. This is where we discuss our true feelings on the movie we're covering. For more information on our podcast and to browse past episodes, you can head over to our website, wearethecontrarians.com.
From there, you can also access our Patreon and merchandise, because capitalism.
If you enjoy our attempts at comedic film discussions, we encourage you to subscribe and leave us a review on whatever podcatcher you use.
If you'd like to reach out to us directly, that's what social media is for. You can find us on most platforms as @ContrarianPrime.
You can also see what we look like if you go to youtube.com/@ContrarianPrime, and you can contact us by email at wearethecontrarians@gmail.com.
I think that covers it.
Then it's time for the podcast. And we are recording for Contrarians Corner for The Apartment.
Hello and welcome to the Contrarians, where we're right and you're wrong. My name is Alex, joined as always by my Peruvian counterpart, Julio, traveling many decades back. Not one of our oldest movies. You could feel it, though, because it's black and white, you know? It's an artistic choice, which yielded positive results for the filmmakers at hand here. We're going back to 1960, and we are going back to Billy Wilder returning to the Contrarians, bringing along some returning guests. Yeah, we've had Jack Lemmon in Glengarry Glen Ross. We've had Shirley MacLaine in The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. I don't know about Fred McMurray, though. Has he been on the show before?
Of course. William Neff. He used to work at a different insurance company.
Yes. He is the bridge to our other Billy Wilder film, correct? Yeah.
So is this an alternate timeline where Neff survived? Or he was never caught?
I
guess. He just kept climbing the ranks?
And just became a real asshole along the way. He's a real dick in this movie, man. I tell you what.
It was so sad because I liked him so much in Double Indemnity. And here, he's just gross.
Yeah, he's nasty. The one line that's probably going to stay with me from him, at least in this movie, is, you take a girl out for a few laughs, next thing you know, she's expecting you to leave your wife. He says something, tantamount to that. And I was like, good God, man. But at the 1961 Academy Awards, this bad boy took home Best Picture. So quite an undertaking we have in front of us here, Julio. It is entered into the Library of Congress National Film Registry. And if you look up its legacy, it's quite beloved and held in the highest of regards. Shirley MacLaine obviously went on to be a very prominent actor of our lifetimes, but this obviously coming quite a bit beforehand.
It's like you said, Ben Stiller's mom. You don't get to play Ben Stiller's mom just like that.
Nope. You don't get to be, I can't remember the character's name. It's not a character, but the person's name in Bernie that gets shot. She's also in that. She's mean in that. She's far more, she tries the manic pixie dream girl a bit harder in this than she did in Bernie.
Just a little bit.
But Julio, 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. As I mentioned, a celebrated legacy. We'll see what we can do with that. What quotes did you pull for us to begin this journey with The Apartment?
All right, a sea of red tomatoes and the Tomatometer. We're going to start with Rachel Wagner from Hallmarkies podcast, who says, one of the great American films. Is this a podcast about Hallmark movies? Did they show The Apartment, the Hallmark channel? What's going on here?
Yeah, something tells me that this might be a little bit too dark for the Hallmark channel.
Well, maybe it's like a Hallmark edit,
Yes, like that Simpsons where they, at the old folks' home, they show the edited version of Gone with the Wind that it ends at him going, frankly, my dear, I love you. Let's get married. They edit it. And that's...
So this one, Fred McMurray leaves his wife in the first act.
Yeah, maybe. Or like they just end up together after the spaghetti strainer with the tennis racket. Like that's just the spaghetti somehow ends up on what's his character's name in the CC on his head. And that's at that point, she realizes she's in love with him. And he's like, what a mensch. And that's how it ends on the Hallmark version.
Yeah, the doctor bursts in, looks at the camera and goes, The Apartment. Next, Stanley Kaufman from The New Republic says, Jack Lemmon is a genuine actor, not in the same universe with most of his film contemporaries who are mere behaviors. This picture is not good enough for him. Still, his performance makes it worth a visit.
Wow, that's like a backhanded compliment.
Yeah, I think the red tomato is going to Jack Lemmon, not to the apartment. That is kind of rude, though, to Shirley MacLaine, to Frank McMurray, to Ray Walston. Like mere behaviors.
They are mere utility infielders, is what he's saying here.
Yes. Competent, serviceable performance. What's your take on Jack Lemmon, Alex? Young Jack Lemmon, the one that we get here, not the elder statesman from Glengarry Glen Ross, but this dude that apparently it was believed he could anchor a romantic comedy.
You know, part of me did love the idea of Jack Lemmon being like a heartthrob, you know, whatever the tiger beat of the day was, him being on the cover of it. And I had to look it up. He was 35 when they made this, so he was close in age to me. And I was like, man, do I look that old? And then I just had to like, you know, go back in my mental Rolodex and be like, no. People just looked older back then. They smoked, 2 packs a day and drank like crazy. And, the trash can he comes out of his apartment with, and the doctor's like, it's a doctor. And he's like, maybe just slow down a bit. And it's like a dozen empty whiskey bottles in there, or gin as they drink.
But also the way he talks like an old man.
He definitely does. And he trips over his words, and he like, Hugh Grant was the natural progression of Jack Lemmon in the sense of just affable and having a hard time getting to the end of a sentence. Hugh Grant lucked out because he had that saucy British accent, but Hugh Grant always looked a bit older than he actually was too. So yeah, there you go,
dude,
Hugh.
We missed out on the Apartment remake with young Hugh Grant. It's too late now. I mean, we're gonna have to wait until who's gonna be the Jack Lemmon character? Timothée Chalamet.
Dude, there's definitely a universe where a remake of this exists, and a young Owen Wilson plays the C.C. Baxter role, don't you think?
Directed by Peter Bogdanovich.
And I was going to say Jennifer Aniston plays Shirley MacLaine's role.
Man, let's do it.
No, because there's no universe, as discussed in any movie we've done with Jennifer Aniston. There's no universe where I feel sorry for her, so I don't know if that would work.
All right. Let's move on. We're going to finish with Ben Kubasik from Newsday, who says, Director Wilder has come up with another real winner in The Apartment. It is a film with plenty of fun and one that promises hope in a society whose moral standards seem to be rapidly deteriorating.
Boy, I don't know when that review was written, but
yesterday.
Then he's being a bit too kind.
November 6th, November 6th, 2024. Yeah, Ben, I don't know when you wrote this, and I don't know if you're still writing reviews, but I don't know what you think of today's movies and today's moral standards, but it's rough out there. So those are the quotes, Alex. Now, before we grab the key from under the mat and go into Contrarians Corner, I think it's time to shout out the person responsible for throwing another Billy Wilder movie at us. Do you know who that is?
I believe it's our friend Nerd Revert.
It is. Nerd Revert, who I don't remember if it was his last pick, but definitely a recent pick, was Dunstan Checks In. So that's now what I think of when I think of Nerd Revert. And I think that maybe he's just trying to elevate my perception of him by throwing a Billy Wilder movie at us, like a 5 Oscar winner and so on. Black and white. But you know what? If anything, I think we needed more monkeys in The Apartment. But pay the orangutan for C.C. Baxter. Let's do that.
Like this movie, but he just has Dunstan at his desk with him the whole time?
Yes. Nobody acknowledges that there's an ape next to him.
Exact same movie. There's just an ape with Jack Lemmon the entire time.
The ape helps him cook. He's doing the spaghetti. The ape is the sous chef. The ape's helping him clean up, helping him pack at the end of the movie. I mean, it would be adorable.
And then Rupert Everett as a child walks in at the end and is like, Dunstan, what are you doing here? He would have been 1 when this movie was made, so I have to use CG of the time.
My name is C.C. Baxter. C for Calvin, C for Clifford. However most people call me Bud. I've been with Consolidated for 3 years and 10 months, and my take-home pay is $94.70 a week.
All right. The Apartment, released in New York on June 15th of 1960 and in LA on June 21st of the same year. A few weeks apart, a budget of $3 million, estimated box office return of a little under $25 million. Safe to say, in the 65 years since the release here, its legacy has grown. It is the story of C.C. Bud Baxter, a lonely office worker at an insurance company in New York City. To climb the corporate ladder, he allows 4 company managers to take turns borrowing his Upper West Side apartment for their extramarital affairs. Baxter meticulously juggles the booking schedule, but the steady stream of women convinces his neighbors that he is a playboy. First of all, I believe the opening narration provided by Jack Lemmon says this was in the 50s. It takes place shortly in the not so far away past here. And it started off with narration by Jack Lemmon, which just immediately goes away. I was kind of looking forward to that. And it doesn't exist outside of this opening scene, right?
It doesn't. And also the tone of that narration kind of goes away. Because at first you think that this is going to be a very analytical guy constantly crunching the numbers, right? It's giving you a lot of stats. If you lay down these many New Yorkers, starting in New York, you get all the way to China, I think. He's just throwing numbers at you. How many people have to get in each elevator so that everybody can exit without a traffic jam and so on. That's only the opening. After that, he never puts his brilliant mind to work. I was expecting some Russell Crowe kind of thing where he was just going to, in his mind, he was going to really work out how to make this apartment business a real business, right? But instead, it's the opposite. It's like a curse. He never gets ahead really in a way that makes him truly happy. I mean, I guess his happiness is temporary, but I wanted. Did you get that feeling that we're kind of like seeing a savant at work at the beginning? It's like, oh my God, he knows so much data.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be like, I expected a Jerry Lewis type thing here, where he was like a brilliant idiot, like he was going to be really good at his job, but he would trip and fall and his head would end up in the fish tank or some shit like that. I went into this back row blind, to be honest, and it's a movie that I had heard of it because it does have a legacy as like one of these all-time great films, but I didn't know what the plot was. So within the first 5 minutes, I was like, "Wait, what?"
The apartment, more like the fuck pad.
If Mad Men has taught us anything, it's that dudes from this time period were just fucking everything that wasn't their wives. But I didn't realize it was to this extent of like organizing. And think of the odor of that apartment, man. They're all just fucking in the same bed and on the same couch.
That's one of my notes. There's no way Jack Lemmon is washing those sheets.
Just a rotating roster of women coming in with the same 4 dudes over and over. And they're all fucking, just lushes and drunk and smoking cigarettes. And, occasionally CC cooks up some spaghetti in there. And so I can't imagine the aroma of that place, man. That's why his neighbors were so concerned.
Yes. What's the deal with New York in the 50s then? Were hotel prices just prohibitively expensive? These are not teenagers that can't afford to rent a room.
Well,
right?
Rent was really high. His rent got hiked up. He was paying $85 a month, remember?
Oh, yeah, those tariffs. They hadn't kicked in yet. Okay, but he is, when the movie starts, he's kind of the bottom of the building, right? Like your status rises as you rise up the floors, I guess. And so these guys that he's helping, they're his superiors. So I would think that they can afford to rent a hotel room.
I would think so.
Is it just the kink of doing it in someone else's apartment?
that was going to be a talking point of like, I don't know. I know.
Have you ever, Alex? Are you about to confess?
Couches, not beds. Like
were you CC Baxter or were you one of the?
Oh yeah, I had in college. I organized this whole situation where they could come over and use my bed. No, I had like some friends in college that didn't see the issue with like using someone else's bed for that, and that's kind of where I draw the line. I'm like, a couch can be fair game, There's a big party at your friend's place, fun is had, but yeah, I don't know. That's almost into like, cuck territory there, for Jack Lemmon. He's being made a cuckold by his boss is just, grinding his gears into his bed. I don't know. If that ever happened in a bed of mine, it's one of those things I'd be better off my whole life just not knowing it. And here, Jack Lemmon's just willingly like, here you go. Here's the key. And at this point in the story, he hasn't yet gotten his promotion. So what is the upside for him here?
Exactly. When he's explaining how it happened, the best he can come up with is, well, you give the key to one guy and then you can't say no to the next guy. You absolutely can.
Yeah.
It's very easy. No.
I've known people that have a hard time saying no for like, hey, can I get a ride? Hey, can you bum me $20? Not, hey, I need to cheat on my wife. Can I fuck in your bed? That's a whole different situation. I don't let people borrow my DVDs anymore, man. Like, it's, I don't know. It must have been a different time. This is when America was still one. We're what, in the 50s here, so we're post World War II. We're picking up after Saving Private Ryan, so optimism is at an all-time high.
Love thy neighbor, help thy neighbor cheat, or your coworker, as it were.
Dude, let's just go ahead and get into that here. It had to be, I wouldn't say eye-opening for the time because people were obviously alive then, but I can't imagine how many businessmen took their wives to see this and, we're like, what the fuck, man? You're blowing it. You're blowing the ruse. They wrote Billy Wilder some very intimidating letters of, you better pull that fucking movie.
Traitor. Is that Michael Rappaport line from Beautiful Girls. It's like, they're all sisters. You tell one and they all find out.
Well, first you can't wait to get me here, and then it's rush, rush, rush. Makes a person feel cheap.
Sylvia, sweetie, it's not that, but I promised the guy I'd be out of here by 8 o'clock positively.
What guy? Whose apartment is this, anyway?
What's the difference? Some schnook that works in the office.
Baxter solicits glowing performance reviews from the 4 managers and submits them to personnel director Jeff Sheldrick, who then promises to promote him, provided that Sheldrick also earns use of the apartment for his own affairs starting that night. As compensation for this short notice, he gives Baxter 2 tickets to see The Music Man, which was a Meredith Willson production that went to Broadway in 1957. So yeah, this movie takes place just a few years before it was released.
Are you familiar with the Music Man?
Bob Dylan?
No.
Oh, it's a Tambourine Man.
Well, I mean, okay, so if you aren't, then you might have missed the joke. There's an episode of Modern Family where I think Cam is constantly bringing up The Music Man and maybe quoting The Music Man. Because I remember elbowing Kelly and going like, that's from The Music Man. And she didn't know what I was talking about. But it's kind of a big deal. There's a movie, the original movie adaptation. And then Matthew Broderick did a TV movie adaptation where he is The Music Man. And, it's kind of like on rotation. I think community theaters, like they'll put it on. It's 76 trombones. I think that's like the big number. Anyway, the point is, when they said The Music Man, I was like, oh, they didn't make it up. They didn't make up a play for this movie. They actually went. It's like when in Knocked Up, when they're talking about going to see Spider-Man 3. You're like, yes, that is something that happened in the real world.
Yeah.
The danger of like that moment got me way more excited than anything else that was happening in the movie. And then it's gone. We don't even get to see him actually go to the play.
God, that is so funny. Knocked Up. Where'd you go? See a movie. What movie? Spider-Man 3.
So the boss, what's his name?
Jeff Sheldrake.
Fred McMurray. Older now.
Real piece of work.
Yes. Is he wiser now? I guess he is, right? He's coming out on top. We hate him, but he's coming out on top as opposed to his character in Double Indemnity.
He, along with everyone in this, it's just, I have a note here that says people went much harder in those days, like the drinking and the smoking, just non-fucking stop. It's
and the cheating on their wives.
That also, that's the neighbors who we mentioned think he's a playboy. There's just some tremendous moments of the doctor. He has a doctor who lives next door to him. They'll hear just like a woman laughing or like a woman's cry from the apartment, and he'll go, "Mildred, he's at it again." This movie is one hilarious misunderstanding in the case of C.C. Baxter, but all the other men in this are just big pieces of shit that have absolutely no respect for women. Like the way Sheldrick talks about women here is just like, yeah, no wonder the white man is as vilified as he is today. It's because people like Jeff Sheldrick just thought they could do whatever the fuck they wanted in the 1950s.
It was like Patriarchy, the movie. But the problem is that they're all portrayed here. Like even somebody like Jack Lemmon, like the Jack Lemmon character, he is kind of like the loser in this scenario, as in like everybody's taking advantage of him, but he's not much better. Like in the sense that he's also watching these women get traded around.
He's
and
perpetuating this whole culture.
Yes. I mean, even the one that he likes, when it comes to it, he sides with the men. He sides with his boss. Like his primary objective throughout the movie is to protect his boss's reputation, not to figure out what's best for Shirley MacLaine.
Well, we got to get to our lead female here, and that is Shirley MacLaine. She plays Fran Kubelik, an elevator operator in the office building to whom Bud is attracted. For this particular situation, he asks her to join him for the Music Man. She agrees, but first has to have dinner with a, quote, former fling who turns out to be Sheldrick. When Sheldrick tells her that he plans to divorce his wife to be with her, they head to Baxter's apartment while Baxter waits outside the theater. He gets stood up here. We do get a reference to a previous entry, a very famous and beloved entry in the Contrarians history, Julio, when Baxter gets off the elevator and it's quite clear that he's smitten with Fran. Did you catch what one of his coworkers said to him?
No.
I'd like to take a slow elevator to China with her. Yeah.
Yes. And so he started saying it. Yeah, that's if only he had sung it.
Yes, this needed Lancaster Dodd there to warm up the pipes.
That's how the movie should have ended. Just Jack Lemmon serenading her. I want to take you.
Smoking cools all the while.
Yes. I have a lot of questions about this, Alex. Is this real or is it something that Wilder came up with? Was there ever a time in America where people would just get paid to push the button on the elevator and to tell you when your floor was up?
I would imagine, because that's see, I think that just because it's been buried into my head because of television and film, but TV and movies would never lie to us.
I mean, talk about inefficiency. Like, how much is Shirley MacLaine getting paid?
An elevator operator, lift man, or lift girl is a person specifically employed to operate a manually operated elevator. While largely considered an obsolete occupation, elevator operators continue to work in historic installations and fill modern-day niches. So yeah, it appears as though that was a thing.
Was the technology so new that they're like, no, we need somebody that's in charge of the elevator?
Elevators were made automated during the 1970s, so it looks like the time for the historical accuracy of the apartment starting to check out here.
Right. This is before AI took over the elevators.
Yes. Well, remember that I always think of Inside Llewyn Davis at this point, where he asks the guy, he's like, "Can you take this cat?" I got to run the elevator.
Yeah, Shirley MacLaine, no pets. She has to run the elevator.
I thought you were going to ask if what follows is real, and that is during the company's raucous Christmas Eve party, Sheldrick's secretary, Miss Olson, tells Fran that she herself and her boss had an affair in addition to his numerous affairs with other female employees. Fran confronts Sheldrick at Baxter's apartment. He claims he loves her, but heads back to his family in White Plains. So I thought you were going to ask if office Christmas parties really get this crazy.
I know they do. I've heard your stories. My note says this is an Alex Mattis office Christmas party.
Yeah, I mean, can confirm. Not since COVID have we gone back to these days, but some previous office Christmas parties definitely resembled what was happening here.
Were you ever like Ray Walston on top of the desk doing the conga line?
That would have been more reserved for things I did in college, but I know like dancing, karaoke, making out in public, that type of stuff. So yeah, and including here with the secretary, drunken confessions that are meant just to stir up drama. That's always the best part of those parties.
Trademark. This is how you bring employees together. The gossip the next day.
How's the branch manager from Kansas City?
I beg your pardon?
I'm Miss Olson, Mr. Sheldrake's secretary.
Yes, I know.
So you don't have to play innocent with me. He used to tell his wife I was the branch manager from Seattle 4 years ago, and we were having a little Ring-a-ding-ding.
What's happened in this time is the promotion came to CC. He's got his own office there. We mentioned that Sheldrick is wise to, what's going on. And it's becoming a lot for him because he's trying to live his own life and also please all his bosses. So he's having to juggle all these different calendars. Film studios employ people to do this shit, and he's doing it on top of his own job. I don't mean, I'm not to say they're there to make their calendars for extramarital affairs and whatnot, but there's people whose entire jobs are to coordinate calendars for people. And this guy's just doing it fucking gratis on top of his other whatever he does, which by the looks of it just is going through a Rolodex a lot. That seems to be what his job at the insurance company is.
Yes. I mean, it pays off in the sense that eventually he gets that office with his name on it, but it also ends up hurting him because this Christmas party, this is the last time I think that the movie is a fun comedy, because here's where things take
Accurate.
a turn. Yes. There's just like the two revelations, right? Shirley MacLaine finds via Fred McMurray's secretary, finds out that Fred McMurray's been basically sleeping his way through every female employee in the building. And this building has 30 floors. So it's just, man, the STDs on this dude, it's just nonstop. And now they're all over Jack Lemmon's apartment too. And then Jack Lemmon finds out that the woman that Fred McMurray's been taking to his apartment is Shirley MacLaine because of the broken mirror.
Yep.
When he first found the broken mirror in a few scenes ago, he gave it to Fred McMurray. Said, "Hey, your girl dropped this." Did you think that it was going to come back? Where you're like, "Oh, Wilder, I see what you're doing. This is a setup."
Well, when I heard that she was going on a date with a former fling in the scene that followed up him saying, I got a sweet piece of tail waiting for me tonight, I was like, "Oh, I've seen a movie before, so I know where this is going."
For that matter, this is something else that I question the accuracy, but you tell me, is it okay or was it okay in the 50s to take your girl on the side to a Chinese restaurant? Was that the cool place to go?
I think the implication is that we'll never be spotted here because I guess Chinese food hadn't taken off. I don't know.
I have never walked into a Chinese restaurant or any restaurant, I guess, where the first thing that greets you is some dude on the piano that just plays an entrance music for you. Well,
that's because we used to be a proper country, but
Oh, okay. I'm just not going to the right restaurants.
Well, I don't even know if that exists anymore. Because what is the bar they go to in Dazed and Confused where Matthew McConaughey walks in, right? It's fucking hurricanes crescendoing, so you just got to time it right, man.
Yeah, your life has to be directed by Billy Wilder or by
Richard Linklater.
Yes. But anyway, Alex, I think we both agree. This is where the apartment - the comedy ends and the apartment - the suicide drama begins.
Yeah, this movie takes some unexpected turns.
Tell me about it.
Realizing that Fran is the woman Sheldrick has been taking to his apartment, Baxter lets himself be picked up by a married woman at a local bar. When they arrive at his apartment, he discovers Fran passed out on his bed from an overdose of sleeping pills. He ditches the woman from the bar and enlists his neighbor, Dr. Dreyfus, to revive Fran. Baxter implies that he was responsible for the incident. Dreyfus scolds him for his philandering and advises him to be a mensch. So a couple things to unpack here real quick. This qualifies as a Christmas movie because there's a Christmas party and a large segment of the film, even up until the end. He's got a Christmas tree up in his apartment, so it qualifies.
Our friend and patron, Ben Murray, when he saw that we were doing the apartment, he messaged me. He posted on Blue Sky. He said, the real question is, does this qualify as a Christmas movie? And I said, I'm pretty sure Alex is going to say yes.
Yes.
So my gut reaction is to say no, because this is too much of a bummer to be a Christmas movie.
To remind you, I said that the Iron Claw qualifies as a Christmas movie because there is an elongated Christmas sequence in that movie.
A lot more deaths in that one too. So
yeah, I just recently rewatched that, and that's I'm good. I'm not going to be bringing that back out at Christmas. All right, so it qualifies as a Christmas movie, but the woke mob had already won at this point. Julio, did you see at the bar it says Happy Holidays and not Merry Christmas? I was like, what the fuck? They had already won in the 50s?
Or was it just like a very specific hole in the wall that Jack Lemmon was going to get wasted at?
It's almost like that's always been an expression, and that some people just fucking obsess over the dumbest bullshit.
How often do you think in real life, Jack Lemmon gets picked up at bars like he does in this movie?
With that bowler hat on, baby, sideways, right? Man.
Just the 5 o'clock shadow and just the miserable look in his face. And this lady, she's like, my husband's in Cuba.
She's trying hard to get his attention too.
Yeah, it was impressive. I think that sold me more on his sex appeal than his flirtation with Shirley MacLaine.
But we get drunken dancing here with this woman in the bar, and you think it's going to lead to kind of this, oh, what are you doing here moment, but then it doesn't, because Shirley MacLaine is taking a bunch of sleeping pills in an attempt to kill herself. And then it quickly becomes almost famous when Penny Lane overdoses on Quaaludes, and the doctor hits the room and has to pump her stomach. Biggest difference being here is that, like, Dr. Dreyfus, just for what feels like an uncomfortable length of time, is just beating the shit out of Shirley MacLaine, just slapping her in the face repeatedly over and over again.
Is it supposed to be funny? Is it there for, like, as a gag?
I literally questioned that out loud. I was like, is this part supposed to be funny?
It goes on forever too. Like, not just the slapping, but the entire sequence of events from the moment that the doctor comes in. I think that most movies wisely would make this go really quickly, especially because it's a comedy.
Well, the funny part of it is the doctor walking in and seeing the two girls there and, like, looking at him like, you son of a bitch,
I knew it.
But I literally questioned out loud, like, is this supposed to be funny? Because you think it is, but then Shirley MacLaine acts like someone who would be coming out of a drug-induced stupor like that. She doesn't, like, you would think if it was supposed to be funny, she'd be like, whoa, and, like, wakes up and, like, spills the hot coffee on Jack Lemmon or some shit like that. And it ends up just coming across as very uncomfortable.
Yeah, and this is her character, the Shirley MacLaine character, that is very, very clever and very witty, just full of energy in that first act of the movie. And look, I understand. Like, I understand the logistics of it. Like, she's going through a very traumatic experience, and on a logical level, this makes sense. She is just, for lack of a better word, broken for the rest of the movie. She's just sad. Okay, not broken, heartbroken, I guess. But also, like, physically, she's weakened because, she just went through this attempt at killing herself, and psychologically, she's miserable. And she becomes that person that, I mean, we've all, if you had friends, at some point you found yourself in a situation of, like, all right, dude, you broke up with your girlfriend or you broke up with your boyfriend, and now I've listened to you complain about how you still love them for a week. It's gotten old. And that's what I found myself thinking as the Shirley MacLaine character survived her suicide attempt and then became this sort of drag on the movie, because then all her scenes were about how much she hated herself and about how much she knew that Fred McMurray was a piece of shit, but she couldn't help it. She still loves him, and so on and so on.
I was just talking to him on the phone. He's very concerned about you.
He doesn't give a damn about me.
You're wrong. He told me.
He's a liar. That's not the worst part. The worst part is I still love him.
And meanwhile, Jack Lemmon is still trying to be funny. It's just really weird. Jack Lemmon is still making faces and trying to play cards and cooking spaghetti with a tennis racket. And Shirley MacLaine it's literally on suicide watch for the rest of the movie. Like, the doctor tells him, hey, just because I saved her right now doesn't mean you can relax, because these things tend to happen again. I'm like, what happened to the movie about the guy that was just letting other people use his apartment as a fuck pad? It's such a left turn.
Yeah, it gets dark quickly and it stays there. I guess if there's any solace in that, Julio, it doesn't go back to, once we cross the line, it's crossed and we're not going back.
Yes. So there's no, it's not quite whiplash. It's just more like a violent jerk in a different direction, but then you just keep going.
Yeah, you have to swerve to avoid hitting something that takes you down a different road that's, not paved and shit. Fran spends 2 days recuperating in Baxter's apartment, during which a bond develops between them, especially after he confesses to an earlier suicide attempt over unrequited love. Fran says that she has always suffered bad luck in her love life. Again, it's Jack Lemmon saying it in this character, so it starts and you think it's going to be something funny. He's like, and I tried to shoot myself in the head. And it's like, what the fuck?
Dude, it's so fucked up because jumping ahead to the end of the movie, he actually pulls the gun. It's Billy Wilder kind of planting the seed for you to question if Jack Lemmon is going to shoot himself at the end, which is so out of place with what I thought this movie was in the first 30, 40 minutes. The other thing, and this is something that we really need to talk about, I don't know if it was just more acceptable back then, I mean, or maybe it's just because it's the 50s, but he comes across as a creep. The disturbing levels of stalking, like even before this, when he's asking her out to go to see the Music Man, he reveals that at some point he broke into her file at work and basically knows her entire medical history and knows where she lives and know who she lives with. That is like a huge privacy invasion. Yeah. And the movie paints it as like, oh, isn't it romantic? Like even Shirley MacLaine takes it like, oh, haha, that's funny. Don't tell anybody. And now here, he has her at his mercy. Like she's all weakened and now she's staying in his apartment and he won't let her go.
Yeah.
Like, no, don't call your sister. Don't call anybody. And at some point, this was just like jarring. At some point, he tells her, she's trying to leave. She starts walking away and he stops her. He's like, Miss Luby, like, I'm stronger than you. Like, what the fuck are you saying? It was in my mind. I actually wrote on my notes. I was like, this is Misery, the Jack Lemmon version, like where Jack Lemmon is Kathy Bates. And he just trapped this person that he admires / loves in. I mean, man, if Wilder had gone harder on that angle, can you imagine that? I would have really been impressed by. It started as a comedy and turns into this thriller where Jack Lemmon turns out to be unhinged and Fred McMurray is actually going to save the day at the end. But no, we don't get there either.
As Baxter prepares for a romantic dinner, one of the managers arrives for a tryst. Baxter persuades him and his companion to leave, but the manager recognizes Fran and informs his colleagues. Later, the managers take Fran's brother-in-law, Carl, to the apartment to take her home. Baxter deflects Carl's anger over Fran's wayward behavior by once again assuming all responsibility. Carl punches him and Fran kisses Baxter for protecting her. So, up until this point, Jack Lemmon has gotten nothing from his advances and, all the good deeds he's done for Fran. And just to put it over the top, he gets beat up here.
By the only New Yorker in the movie. The only real New Yorker.
Yes. And she hovers over him and says, "You damn fool." But something to call out here is that Sheldrick fired his secretary, and we see that she has intentions of spilling the beans to his wife. Meanwhile, these other guys are talking about Cece, Bud, turned his back on us, so we have no reason to protect him anymore. It's like hell you don't. He can still ruin all y'all's lives by telling your wives what's going on. So I guess they just assumed this guy was going to kill him.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he certainly looked rougher and more menacing than anybody else in the movie, so I could buy it. Like, these guys had never seen a taxi driver before, so they was like, oh my god, this guy looks like he could do some damage. Let's send him over to Jack Lemmon. They're all such pieces of shit too, because their reaction, one of them, tries to get into the apartment. He catches that Shirley MacLaine is there, asleep, and so they assume that Jack Lemmon has scored, and just the whole interaction there is just so icky. He's like, oh, look, you got her in bed, and he tells him, keep at it or something, and it's just, and Jack Lemmon, this is the moment where he could have become a little more sympathetic if he had actually told this dude off, but instead he just kind of pushes him out gently. He's like, I'm not gonna clarify, I'm just gonna let you think that yes, I am having sex with Shirley MacLaine. So in a way, when he gets beaten up later, he had it coming. It's just the collective frustration from the audience through the entire movie. What do you make of the punches he gets, Alex? Because he gets like a 1-2.
Yeah, he catches him with a sharp hook that definitely rocks him. He's not out cold, but his faculties have left him.
And then the doctor, who just watched the entire thing happen, just goes, I told you so.
he warned him that this life was going to catch up with him.
Yeah.
When Sheldrake learns that Miss Olson, this is his secretary, told Fran about his affairs, he fires her, as we mentioned, and she retaliates by telling all to Sheldrake's wife, who promptly throws him out. Sheldrake welcomes this as an excuse to pursue Fran, although she hints that she is losing interest. Having promoted Baxter to an even higher position, Sheldrake expects Baxter to loan out his apartment yet again for him and Fran. Baxter gives him back the key to the building's executive washroom instead, proclaiming that he has decided to become a mensch and quits the firm. He decides to move out of the apartment and begins to pack his belongings. Have you ever had access to like an exclusive bathroom? I know it doesn't sound like much, but man, what? Few things will make your ego swell bigger than that.
Okay, well, define exclusive, because if you're sharing it with like 10 other executives, I mean...
I worked on a floor where it was just, you had to have key card access to get to it, and only like a few other people had that. I didn't have my own bathroom. I remember my dad had an office at one of his jobs in Virginia where he had his own private bathroom, and I was like, you made it, old man. This is like the stamp of approval.
At the College Station Theater, we had bathrooms in the booth area. So it was like on the second floor, the booth area, and those are bathrooms basically for the managers and the projectionists. So, I mean, not quite exclusive. You didn't need a key to get in, but you really need to go all the way up. So you were not using the restrooms that most of the employees and most of the customers were using. So, I mean, it was nice. I wasn't patting myself on the back for using them, but it was not quite as big a deal as this one, where it's such a big moment, such a big gesture to throw away the key to the executive washroom. Okay, Jack Lemmon.
Say, Baxter, you gave me the wrong key.
No, I didn't.
But this is the key to the executive washroom.
That's right, Mr. Sheldrake. I won't be needing it because I'm all washed up around here.
We had at the Bee Cave, the Galleria, as we've talked about, Julio and I worked at, there was like this bathroom there that was supposed to be like the public bathroom, but it was hidden and it was never used.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, because when it was dead and like I needed to get away for a minute, I would walk over there because it was also like just one stall so you could lock the door and whatnot. Or it was just like a one-use bathroom. Yeah. Many mental health breaks were taken there. So,
but how terrible was it when you went all the way over there and the door was locked because somebody had already got in there?
Oh, yeah. Then I just had to go back because I'm like, I'm not going to wait and use it now because the illusion's dead. That, it's this abandoned bathroom. So,
Alex, Jack Lemmon here, post 1-2 punch. He's rocking the Sam Worthington look. Just sunglasses indoors. Did that make you hate him even more?
That would have been big doings for the time. That's sunglasses indoors. What is this guy doing? No, I felt bad for him, man. I was like, God damn, this guy can't catch a break. He brought it all on himself, but still, I feel bad for him because he's Jack Lemmon and he seems so charming and charismatic.
Fred McMurray has one of the funniest lines. One of the times that I laughed was when he's explaining his situation, and he tells Jack Lemmon, well, I fired my secretary, then my secretary went to my wife, and then my wife fired
me. And he tells me, he's like, oh, you gave me the wrong key. He's like, no, I didn't. I don't follow. He just takes him forever to pick up on what's going on.
I guess it's a resolution to this rivalry of sorts. The thing is that
resolution-wise,
yes, the Fred McMurray character has never really been depicted as seeing Jack Lemmon as any sort of competition. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why it's really not that rewarding when you finally get some sort of confrontation between them and Jack Lemmon walks away. I mean, it's just, I get it, right? I understand that it's just, it's symbolic. It's about the act of leaving. But I was thinking, dude, couldn't you just wait till you had another job lined up? Because he quits. He sacrificed so much. He hurt so many people in the road to get into this office. And now he just walks away without a backup. Was it worth it? What was it all for?
That night at a New Year's Eve party, Sheldrake indignantly tells Fran about Baxter quitting. She abandons Sheldrake and runs to the apartment. At the door, she hears an apparent gunshot, but Baxter then opens the door holding a recently uncorked bottle of champagne. The two declare their love for each other. That doesn't happen, Wikipedia. And The two declare their love for each other, at least according to this summation right here, Julio, and resume a game of gin rummy that they have left unfinished earlier. I know that Cece says, "I love you," and she goes, "Just deal."
Yeah. she just gives him the K.
Yeah, text back K or a thumbs up or like a smiley face, you know.
He even elaborates. He's like, "Did you hear me? I said that I absolutely adore you." She's like, "Okay, deal."
She says, "Just deal, dummy," or "Just deal, you idiot," or something like that. But yeah, she tells him just to lay the cards out, and that's the end.
Man, I had forgotten about the fake out with the champagne opening.
Dude, when that happened, I was like, what? Because, I thought the movie had gone pretty dark at some points, but I still thought it was going to be like happy ending or, something funny would happen. When that, I bought that. So I was like, holy shit. And then he opened it with the bottle of champagne that was overflowing. I was like, you son of a bitch. Oh, Billy Wilder.
The original cut, she opens the door. No, she gets the doctor to open the door. Maybe they open it. It's just there. Jack Lemmon put an end to it. No, actually, no. He shot himself in the leg again. Because see, it's a comedy. It's still funny.
That's the first thing she asks him. How's your knee?
Yeah. I think that my final takeaway, like the thing when it was all done and there was this happy ending of them just sitting on the couch playing cards, my main feeling was that the movie didn't feel comfortable letting Shirley MacLaine just be happy on her own. Mm-hmm. Like she needs to leave the absolute asshole that is Fred McMurray, but only so she can run to Jack Lemmon, who has really not done much for her. I mean, he's just a creep. I mean, she's leaving an asshole for a creep, like the guy that's unhealthy in his obsession with her. Mm-hmm. I think that it's just such a sign of the times, I guess, that it was a movie, a romantic comedy, couldn't see past the idea that, well, she has to end with someone. And I don't know, you've seen When Harry Met Sally, right? I don't know if you've seen it as many times as I have, but you're familiar with it.
Yeah, I know it's up there for you. I don't remember the last time I saw it. It's been decades, probably.
Well, next time you watch it, you'll be like, oh my God, it's the ending of The Apartment. Because they're split. It's New Year's, and Meg Ryan is at New Year's party, and Billy Crystal is somewhere else, but slowly realizing that, yes, I do love Meg Ryan, like something that the audience figured out, at the beginning of the movie, but he's finally catching up to him. And so as the song is playing, the what's it called? Old Sin Lane, like the song, the New Year's song, he's running. And so it's like the shot of him running to get to her. And then he gets to her. I think he kisses her. And then he goes into just a classic Billy Crystal monologue bit about like, what does this song mean? Why does it say this instead of this? Blah, 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 blah. That's the end of it. And that's at least funny. But here, you have the sequence where McMurray and Shirley MacLaine are at that party, and then that song starts, and then she gets the Billy Crystal look of like, oh, maybe I do love Meg Ryan, except Meg Ryan is Jack Lemmon. And then she runs. I was like, I couldn't believe that it was the same shot. Just her running down the street to get to Jack Lemmon. Of course, When Harry Met Sally, like, there's never a fake out about Meg Ryan shooting herself. So better movie already.
Thank God.
Yeah, Rob Reiner, like, he took what Billy Wilder had put as foundation. He's like, we can do so much better in color. So the point of the story is watch When Harry Met Sally. Because also that movie is a comedy through and through the entire time.
All right, Julio, I believe we are ready to move this along to Real Talk. You dig?
I dig.